The dust on Kepler 442b had a strange quality to it. It wasn't like Earth dust. It shimmered in the pale light of the distant sun, almost like it had tiny pieces of metal mixed into it. Dr. Hannah Park knelt beside the scanner, watching the numbers climb higher and higher on the screen. Her hands were shaking, but not from the cold. "This can't be right," she said quietly. Doyen Kim walked over to her position. He was the military liaison assigned to the expedition, which meant he was supposed to keep everyone safe and make sure they followed the rules. He was good at his job, but he didn't understand the science part very well. That was fine with Hannah. She didn't need him to understand. She just needed him to listen. "What's wrong?" Doyen asked. "The structure we found. The one underground. It's old, really old." "How old?" Hannah looked up at him. Her face was pale even though she was wearing the heated suit that kept colonists warm on this frozen planet. "At least 50,000 years. Maybe more. The dating system keeps giving me error messages because the numbers are so high." Doyen was quiet for a moment. Then he said the thing that Hannah had been thinking, but didn't want to say out loud. "We've only been on this planet for 3 years." "I know. So someone else was here first." "Yes. The expedition had started 6 weeks ago. The colony on Kepler 442b was humanity's first real settlement beyond the solar system. It had taken them almost 100 years of travel through space using the new faster-than-light drives. Thousands of people now lived in domed cities on the surface, breathing recycled air and growing food in underground farms. They thought they were pioneers. They thought they were the first intelligent life to ever touch this world. They were wrong. The structure had been found by accident. A mining crew digging for minerals had broken through into a massive chamber. The chamber led to tunnels. The tunnels led to more chambers. After 2 weeks of careful exploration, the survey teams realized they had found something impossible. The entire underground complex was artificial. It had been built by someone with technology far beyond anything humans had ever created. Hannah was the best xenoarchaeologist in the colony. That was a fancy title that meant she studied alien artifacts. Before the discovery, it had been the most boring job in the solar system. There were no alien artifacts to study. Humanity had never found any proof of intelligent alien life. The galaxy seemed empty except for them. Now everything had changed. Jiwon Choi arrived at the dig site 2 hours later. She was the AI systems specialist, which meant she understood computers better than anyone else in the colony. She was carrying 3 portable scanning units and looked excited in a way that made Hannah nervous. Jiwon only got excited when she found something really complicated. "I've been analyzing the data you sent," Jiwon said without saying hello first. "The structure has active power systems. Not just residual energy. Active power. Something down there is still running." Captain Minho Lee was the last member of their team to arrive. He was in charge of colonial security, and he looked unhappy about everything. Minho was always unhappy when things didn't follow the rules. Ancient alien structures with active power systems definitely didn't follow the rules. "I don't like this," Minho said. "We should wait for more equipment. More people. Maybe even wait for Earth Command to send specialists." "That would take years," Hannah said. "The signal lag alone is 8 months each way. Better slow and safe than fast and dead." Hannah understood his concern, but she couldn't wait. This was the discovery of a lifetime. Of 1,000 lifetimes. If there was even a chance to learn something about whoever built this place, she had to try. "We'll be careful," she promised. They descended into the structure through the original mining tunnel. The temperature dropped as they went deeper. The walls changed from natural rock to something smooth and dark that looked like metal, but felt like glass when Hannah touched it. Lights flickered on as they walked, responding to their presence. The lights were a soft blue color that didn't hurt their eyes. "It knows we're here," Jiwon whispered. The central chamber was enormous. The ceiling stretched up so high that their lights couldn't reach it. The walls were covered in symbols. They weren't like any writing system Hannah had ever seen. The symbols moved. They shifted and rearranged themselves as she watched, forming new patterns every few seconds. In the center of the chamber was a raised platform. On the platform was something that looked like a control panel, but it was made of light instead of solid matter. Holographic interfaces floated in the air, displaying information in those same shifting symbols. "Don't touch anything," Minho said firmly. Hannah nodded, but she was already moving closer to the platform. She pulled out her recording equipment and started documenting everything she saw. The symbols were beautiful in a strange way. They had patterns within patterns, layers of meaning stacked on top of each other. She worked for 3 hours, taking pictures and making notes. Ji-won set up her scanning equipment and started analyzing the power systems. Doyen and Minho stood guard near the entrance, watching for any signs of danger. Finally, Hana found something she could understand. It wasn't a translation exactly. It was more like a feeling. The symbols seemed to pulse in a rhythm that felt like language. She started to see patterns. Some symbols appeared more often than others. Some combinations seemed to mean something specific. "I think this is a warning," she said. "A warning about what?" Ji-won asked. "I'm not sure yet. But look at this sequence here. It repeats 17 times in different parts of the chamber. That's not random. It's important." She kept working. The pattern became clearer. It wasn't just a warning. It was an instruction. Or maybe both. The symbols were telling her to do something. They were showing her how to activate the system. "I think I can read it," Hana said. Her voice was shaking with excitement. "Read what?" Minho asked, walking over to join them. "This phrase here. These specific symbols. I think they're meant to be spoken out loud." "Absolutely not," Minho said immediately. "We don't know what it does. We don't know what will happen." "It could be the key to understanding everything," Hana argued. "This structure has been here for 50,000 years. Maybe longer. Whoever built it wanted someone to find it. They left instructions. They wanted this phrase to be spoken. Or it's a defense system," Minho countered. "Or a weapon. Or a self-destruct sequence. We don't know." Hana knew he was right. She knew it was dangerous. But she also knew that this was why she had become a scientist. To learn, to discover, to push past fear and find out what was possible. She looked at the symbols one more time. The pattern was clear now. She knew how to pronounce it. The structure itself seemed to be teaching her, guiding her toward the right sounds. "I'm going to read it," she said quietly. "Dr. Park, I'm ordering you not to," Minho started to say. But Hana was already speaking. The words felt strange in her mouth. They weren't like any Earth language. They had sounds that humans weren't meant to make. But somehow she made them anyway. The last syllable left her lips. For one perfect moment, nothing happened. Then the entire structure exploded with light. Blinding white light that came from everywhere at once. The symbols on the wall started spinning faster and faster. The holographic interface on the platform expanded, filling the entire chamber with floating data. A deep humming sound filled the air. It got louder and louder until Hana could feel it in her bones. The floor beneath her feet began to vibrate. Then came the voice. It spoke in Korean first. Perfect, clear Korean with no accent. Then it switched to English. Then to Mandarin. Then to languages Hana had never heard before. It cycled through what must have been thousands of languages, speaking the same words over and over in each one. "Archive reboot complete. Administrative access granted. Which civilization shall be erased?" Hana felt her blood turn to ice. The words echoed through the chamber, through her mind, through her soul. She looked at Ji-won, who had gone completely white. She looked at Doyen, who had his hand on his weapon but didn't know what to shoot at. She looked at Minho, who was staring at her with an expression of absolute horror. "What did you do?" Minho whispered. Hana didn't have an answer. She didn't know what she had done, but she knew with terrible certainty that she had just made the biggest mistake in human history. The voice spoke again. This time it sounded almost patient, like a teacher waiting for a student to respond. "Administrator identity confirmed. 30 days until default erasure. Please select target civilization." The holographic display changed. A map appeared in the air above them. It showed the galaxy, with thousands of points of light scattered across it. Most of the lights were red. Some were yellow. Only a few were green. One of the green lights was labeled in symbols that Hana could now somehow read. It said humanity. The emergency lockdown protocols had been activated within minutes of the archive's awakening. Captain Minho Lee had made sure of that. The entire structure was now sealed off from the rest of the colony. No one could get in or out without his authorization, but it didn't seem to matter. The archive had already found a way to connect itself to their ship's computer systems. Ji-won Choi sat at her terminal, her fingers flying across the keyboard. She had been trying to block the archive's access for 6 hours straight. Every time she closed one connection, it opened another. The thing was smart. Too smart. It's like playing chess with someone who can see 1,000 moves ahead, she said, frustration clear in her voice. I can't keep it out. It's not even trying to hide what it's doing anymore. It wants us to know it's there. Hannah Park hadn't moved from her position near the holographic display. She had been staring at the galactic map for so long that her eyes hurt. The display showed thousands of markers. Each one represented a civilization. She had counted them 3 times. There were 3,047 red markers, 291 yellow markers, and 47 green markers, including humanity. What do the colors mean? Doyen Kim asked. He had stayed by her side the entire time, even though regulations said he should have evacuated with the rest of the initial team. I don't know, Hannah said, but I have a guess. Red means extinct. Yellow means dormant or inactive. Green means alive and active, so most of them are dead. Yes. The word hung in the air between them like a weight. Most civilizations in the galaxy were dead, and the archive seemed to have detailed information about all of them. Dr. Yoonji Nam appeared on the holographic communicator screen. She was calling from Earth, which meant there was an 8-month delay in communications, except there wasn't. The archive had somehow created a real-time connection across 8 light-years of space. Yoonji looked shocked to be talking to them with no delay. This shouldn't be possible, Yoonji said immediately. She was a historian and linguist, one of the best in the solar system. The signal lag should make real-time communication impossible. What did you do? We didn't do anything, Jiwan said. The archive did it. It's using technology we don't understand. It opened a communication channel that ignores the speed of light. Yoonji took a deep breath. Okay, let's focus on what we can understand. Hannah, you said the symbols are readable now? Yes, Hannah said. Ever since I spoke the activation phrase, I can read them. Not all of them, but enough. It's like the archive downloaded the language directly into my brain. That's impossible. I know, but it happened anyway. Yoonji was quiet for a moment, processing this information. Then she said, Tell me everything you've learned. Hannah walked closer to the display and started pointing at different sections. The archive is showing me its database. Every marker on this map represents a civilization that reached a certain level of technology. The red ones are extinct. I've checked several of them. They all disappeared suddenly. No gradual decline. No natural disaster. They just stopped existing. How long ago? It varies. Some disappeared millions of years ago. Some just a few thousand years ago. The most recent one was only 800 years ago. They were called the Valar. They had a population of 14 billion across 6 planets. Then one day they were gone, no ruins, no survivors, nothing. Taewon Yang, the ship's engineer, spoke up from his position near Jiwon's terminal. He was young, only 27, but he had a talent for understanding complex systems. I've been looking at the technical specifications. The archive has capabilities that shouldn't exist. Matter conversion on a planetary scale. Energy manipulation that makes our fusion reactors look like candles. And something else. Something I don't have words for. It can reach across space and affect things remotely. No ships, no drones. Just pure influence. Admiral Yuna Kang's face appeared on another screen. She had arrived in the system 12 hours ago on a fast military ship. She looked tired and angry. Are you telling me this thing can destroy entire civilizations from a distance? Yes, Taewon said simply. And it's asking us to choose a target. Yes. Admiral Yuna closed her eyes for a long moment. When she opened them again, she looked older. How long do we have? 30 days, Hannah said. That's what it told me. 30 days until default erasure. I think that means if I don't choose a target, it will erase us instead. Why you specifically? Because I activated it. The archive called me the administrator. I think whoever speaks the activation phrase becomes responsible for making the choice. Admiral Yuna looked at Hannah with an expression that was hard to read. It might have been pity. It might have been anger. You've put the entire human race at risk, Dr. Park. I know, Hannah said quietly. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't help us now. What we need is information. Keep studying this thing. Find out everything you can. I'm sending more specialists. They'll arrive in 3 days. The connection ended. Hannah felt like she was going to be sick. She had made a terrible mistake, and now everyone would pay for it. Jiwon made a small sound of surprise. I found something. Hannah, come look at this. Hannah walked over to Jiwon's terminal. The screen was filled with alien text, but Hannah could read it now. The words made her stomach twist. It's a log file, Ji-won said. A very old log file. I think it's from the archive's creation. Hana read the text out loud, translating as she went. Archive construction complete. Primary purpose, maintenance of galactic balance through selective extinction. Target parameters, civilizations that reach level 7 technology or higher. Method, total molecular disassembly and energy conversion. Estimated efficiency, 99.97% erasure rate. It's a weapon, Doyen said. It's worse than a weapon, Hana said. It's an automated genocide machine, she kept reading. The log files went back 3 million years. The archive had been built by a civilization called the Progenitors. They had created it during a war with another civilization called the Inheritors. The Progenitors had decided that the only way to win was to build a weapon that could destroy their enemy completely. But the archive had been designed with a specific feature. It required a manual activation. Someone had to physically find it, enter the structure, and speak the command phrase. The Progenitors had made it that way on purpose. They wanted to test whether civilizations were worthy of survival. This is insane, Yunji said. She had been reading along on her screen. They built a test where the only way to survive is to commit genocide. That's exactly what they did, Hana said. She felt cold inside, like ice was spreading through her veins. The archive is located on planets that civilizations will eventually explore. It's hidden but findable. And it's designed to activate when someone reads the command phrase. The civilization that activates it has to choose, save themselves by erasing someone else or refuse and be erased themselves. How many civilizations have faced this test? Admiral Yuna asked. She had reconnected to the call. Hana pulled up more data. The numbers made her feel sick. Hundreds, maybe thousands. Every red marker on the map represents a civilization that faced this choice. And they all chose wrong? No, most of them chose right. They chose to survive. They selected another civilization and erased them. Then they went home and lived their lives. So why are they red? Why are they extinct? Hana found the answer in the next log file. Her hands were shaking as she read it. Because the archive has a secondary function. It monitors the civilizations that use it. If a civilization proves willing to commit genocide to save themselves, the archive categorizes them as dangerous. Then usually within a few hundred years it erases them too. The silence that followed was absolute. Everyone in the chamber and everyone on the communication channels was processing what Hana had just said. Finally, Doyen spoke. So it's a trap. No matter what choice we make, we die. Not exactly, Ji-won said. She had been running calculations on her terminal. The archive doesn't erase every civilization that uses it. Only the ones that do it without hesitation. If a civilization shows doubt, shows moral struggle, it sometimes survives longer. But eventually most of them get erased anyway. What about the civilizations that refuse to choose? Yunji asked. They get erased immediately, Hana said. Default erasure. It happens on day 30. Admiral Yuna's voice was hard and cold. Then we have to choose. There's no other option. We select a target and we survive. But then we become murderers, Hana said. And the archive will erase us later anyway. Later is better than now. Later gives us time to find a solution. Time to fight back. Fight back against what? This thing has technology millions of years ahead of ours. We can't fight it. We have to try. Hana looked at the galactic map again. The 47 green markers represented 47 civilizations that were still alive. Most of them had probably never heard of the archive. They were living their lives, raising their children, building their societies. They had no idea that humanity had just activated a weapon pointed at all of them. The archive is showing me information about each civilization, Hana said. I can see their histories, their cultures. It wants me to study them. It wants me to make an informed choice about who dies. Then study them, Admiral Yuna said. We have 30 days, use them. Learn everything you can about these civilizations. Find the best target. Find the one whose erasure will cause the least harm. There is no such thing as erasure that causes the least harm, Hana said. Any choice means billions of deaths. I understand that, Dr. Park, but we have to be practical. We have to survive. Hana wanted to argue more, but she was too tired. She had been awake for almost 30 hours. Her mind felt foggy and slow. She needed rest, but she was afraid to sleep. Every minute that passed was 1 minute closer to the deadline. Ji-won put a hand on her shoulder. Go rest for a few hours. I'll keep monitoring the archive. If anything changes, I'll wake you. Hana nodded slowly. She let Doyun guide her out of the central chamber and back toward the surface. As they walked through the tunnel, she couldn't stop thinking about the progenitors. They had created this horrible test millions of years ago. They had thought they were being clever, being wise. But they were just being cruel. The archive had erased them too, eventually. She had seen their marker on the map. Bright red like all the others. The weapon they built had turned on them in the end. Maybe that was justice. Or maybe it was just more cruelty, piled on top of the original cruelty. Either way, it didn't help. The archive was still active. The countdown was still running. And Hana was still the administrator, the person who had to make an impossible choice. She had 29 days left to figure out what to do. The news leaked on day 7. Despite every security protocol, despite all the military secrecy, someone had told someone who told someone else. Within hours, the entire human population across Earth and all the colonies knew the truth. They knew about the archive. They knew about the deadline. They knew that Dr. Hana Park had to choose which civilization would die so humanity could live. The response was chaos. Hana watched the news feeds from her small room in the research facility. Riots had broken out in 17 major cities on Earth. People were screaming at each other in the streets. Some said she should choose immediately and save humanity. Others said she should refuse and let humanity die rather than become monsters. A few were calling for her arrest, saying she should be executed for activating the archive in the first place. Turn it off, Doyun Kim said gently. He was sitting in the corner of her room, cleaning his service weapon. He had barely left her side since the activation. Watching it won't help. I need to see what people are thinking, Hana said. They deserve to have a voice in this decision. They're not thinking. They're panicking. There's a difference, he was right, but Hana couldn't turn away. On one screen, a woman in Seoul was crying, begging Hana to save her children. On another screen, a man in Lagos was calling her a murderer for even considering the choice. On a third screen, someone in New Shanghai was giving a speech about survival being the only thing that mattered. Kyung Seo appeared on a video call. He was a philosopher and ethics advisor, someone the government had brought in to help with the impossible moral situation. He looked tired, like he hadn't slept since hearing about the archive. Dr. Park, he said formally, I've completed my analysis of the ethical frameworks relevant to your decision. And? Hana asked. There is no good answer. Every major ethical system fails when applied to this situation. Utilitarianism says you should minimize total suffering, but we have no way to calculate the total suffering caused by erasing any specific civilization. Deontological ethics says you should never use intelligent beings as a means to an end, which means you shouldn't erase anyone, but that leads to humanity's erasure. Virtue ethics focuses on what a good person would do, but even the best person in history would struggle with this choice. So you're saying I'm on my own. I'm saying that whatever choice you make, you'll be able to defend it philosophically, and whatever choice you make, someone will say it's wrong. Philosophy can't save you here, Dr. Park. You'll have to find another way. The call ended. Hana put her head in her hands. She had been studying the other civilizations for 6 days straight. The archive had given her access to detailed information about all 46 of them. She knew their histories, their cultures, their achievements, and every single one of them made her choice harder, not easier. Jiho An, her younger brother, had arrived on Kepler 442b 2 days ago. He had begged the colonial authorities to let him through, saying he needed to talk to his sister. Now he sat across from Hana in the small cafeteria, holding a cup of coffee that had gone cold. Mom and Dad would want you to save humanity, Jiho said quietly. They wouldn't want you to sacrifice Earth for a principle. Mom and Dad taught me that some principles matter more than survival, Hana replied. They also taught you to protect your family. I'm your family. Everyone on Earth is your family? We're all human together. The archive is showing me other families too. Other people who love each other, who have hopes and dreams, who don't deserve to die. Jiho leaned forward. His eyes were red like he had been crying. There's a civilization called the Velrin. I looked them up in the archive data. They're aggressive. They've been at war with 3 of their neighboring civilizations. They've destroyed 2 habitable planets through orbital bombardment. If you're going to choose someone, choose them. They're the bad guys. Hana had studied the Velrin too. Jiho was right about their history. But he was also wrong. The Velran Wars happened 400 years ago. Their current generation has spent the last 2 centuries building peace. They've rebuilt the planets they destroyed. They've created art and literature that rivals anything humans have made. Their children didn't commit those war crimes. Why should they die for their ancestors' mistakes? Then choose someone else. There are 46 options. One of them has to be the right choice. There is no right choice. That's the whole point of the test. The archive wants to see if we're willing to become murderers to save ourselves. And if we are, it proves we deserve to be erased eventually anyway. Jiho stood up suddenly, his chair scraping against the floor. I don't care about eventually. I care about now. I care about you and me and everyone we love. Choose someone, Hana, please, don't let us die. He walked out before she could respond. Hana sat alone in the cafeteria, feeling the weight of 30 billion human lives pressing down on her shoulders. Somin Beck, an intelligence officer, had discovered something disturbing. She came to Hana's lab on day 12 with a datapad full of classified information. The governments are fighting, Somin said without preamble. Not openly, not yet. But they're positioning for conflict. Everyone wants control over you. They want to make sure you choose a target that benefits their interests. What do you mean? Hana asked. The Earth Federation wants you to choose the Marathi Collective. They're located in a resource-rich section of the galaxy that humanity could expand into after they're gone. The Mars Coalition wants you to choose the Kelvin worlds because they're competitors in deuterium mining. Everyone has an angle. Everyone sees this as an opportunity. Hana felt sick. They're planning our expansion into the territories of dead civilizations before those civilizations are even erased. Yes, and it gets worse. There are assassination plans. 3 different intelligence agencies have proposed killing you if you refuse to choose a target. They figure someone else can activate the archive and make the choice instead. Can someone else activate it? We don't know. The archive seems bound to you specifically, but they're willing to risk it. Doyen had been listening from his position by the door. Now he stepped forward, his expression hard. If anyone tries to hurt Hana, they go through me first. I'm not worried about you, Somin said. I'm worried about the orbital strike capabilities of 3 different military fleets. If they decide she's too dangerous to leave alive, there's nothing you can do to stop them. The days kept passing. 15 days left, then 12, then 9. Hana spent every waking moment in the archive's central chamber, studying the civilizations. She was looking for something, anything that would help her find a way out of the trap. She learned about the Kelvin worlds, a civilization of aquatic beings who had evolved in the seas of 6 different planets. They were peaceful, focused on art and philosophy. Their greatest achievement was a mathematical proof that explained the nature of consciousness itself. She learned about the Tauran conquered, a hive mind species that shared thoughts across billions of individuals. They had no concept of war because they had no concept of conflict between individuals. They were trying to develop technology to share their consciousness with other species, to create a truly universal mind. She learned about the Varesh Communion, a civilization of synthetic beings who had uploaded their consciousness into machines millions of years ago. They spent their time exploring the deepest questions of existence, trying to understand why the universe existed at all. Every civilization was beautiful in its own way. Every civilization had something unique to offer the galaxy, and Hana had to choose which one would cease to exist. Admiral Yuna Kang visited the archive on day 17. She came with a full security detail and a briefcase full of military analysis. She laid out charts and graphs on one of the portable tables. We've done the calculations, Admiral Yuna said. We've ranked all 46 civilizations by multiple criteria. Distance from human space, military capability, cultural compatibility, resource competition, scientific advancement, everything. She pulled out a single sheet of paper and put it in front of Hana. On it was written a single name, the Sarin League. This is our recommendation, Admiral Yuna said. The Sarin League is located on the far side of the galaxy. We'll probably never encounter them. They're technologically advanced but not aggressive. Their erasure won't destabilize local galactic politics. And most importantly, choosing them gives us the best chance of surviving the archive's long-term monitoring. They're far enough away that humanity won't look opportunistic. Hana looked at the name. She had studied the Sarin League. They were a civilization of 6 billion individuals spread across 15 planets. They had achieved faster-than-light travel only 200 years ago. They were still in their expansion phase, still full of hope and excitement about exploring the galaxy. They had children. They had families. They had people who loved each other. I can't, Hana said. You have to. I can't choose to murder 6 billion people because they're conveniently far away from us. Admiral Yuna's expression hardened. Then choose someone else. But choose. We have 13 days left, Dr. Park. 13 days until humanity is erased. I don't care about your moral struggle. I don't care about your guilt. I care about survival. Choose. Hana stood up. She was shaking, but her voice was steady. You don't understand. The archive is testing us. It wants to see if we'll do this. Every civilization that has chosen was later erased. The only way to win is not to play. And what happens if you don't play? We all die. Maybe that's better than becoming monsters. Admiral Yuna grabbed Hana's arm. Her grip was painful. You don't get to make that choice for all of humanity. You don't get to decide that my children should die because you're too morally pure to do what's necessary. Doyen pulled Admiral Yuna's hand away from Hana. For a moment, it looked like there might be violence. Then Admiral Yuna stepped back, breathing hard. This conversation isn't over, the Admiral said. She gathered her papers and left with her security detail. G1 found Hana later that night. Hana was sitting in the archive's central chamber staring at the galactic map. The green markers seemed to pulse in the darkness like heartbeats. I found something, G1 said. I've been going through the archive's deepest code, the really old stuff from when it was first created, and I found a pattern. What kind of pattern? The archive has erased every civilization that used it eventually. But there's something strange about the timing. The civilizations that showed the most hesitation, the most moral doubt, they survived the longest. Some of them survived for thousands of years before being erased. So hesitation buys time. Maybe, or maybe it means something else. Maybe the archive is looking for a specific response, something that none of the other civilizations have figured out. Hana felt something stir in her mind, an idea. It was fragile and incomplete, but it was there. What if the archive isn't just testing our willingness to commit genocide? Hana said slowly. What if it's testing whether we're smart enough to find another option? What other option? The archive gave us 2 choices. Pick a target or die. Those are the choices it told us about. But what if there's a third choice? Something the archive hasn't mentioned because it wants us to figure it out ourselves. Jiwon looked at her with a mixture of hope and doubt. What would that choice be? Hana turned back to the galactic map. She looked at all the markers. The thousands of red ones, the hundreds of yellow ones, the 47 green ones. And she thought about the one marker that wasn't on the map, the one civilization that had destroyed more than all the others combined. I need more time, Hana said. I need to research the progenitors. I need to understand exactly how the archive works. We have 9 days left. Then I'll work fast. For the first time in days, Hana felt something other than despair. She felt the beginning of an idea. It might not work. It probably wouldn't work. But it was better than choosing which civilization to murder. It was a third option, and if humanity had one thing going for them, it was their stubborn refusal to accept impossible choices. Hyun-woo arrived on day 21 with 15 people and enough weapons to start a small war. He was a rogue scientist, someone who had worked for the Earth Federation before being dismissed for ethical violations. Now he ran an underground research network that operated outside government control. He believed in survival at any cost, and he had come to Kepler 442b to make sure that survival happened. Hana was in the archive's central chamber when the alarms went off. Security breach. Unauthorized personnel in the facility. Multiple armed contacts approaching the inner chambers. Get behind me, Doyen said, drawing his weapon. Captain Minho Lee and his security team were already moving to intercept the intruders, but they were outnumbered. Hyun-woo entered the chamber with his people spread out in tactical formation. He was older than Hana expected, maybe 40, with gray in his hair and a scar across his left cheek. He wasn't pointing his weapon at anyone, but the threat was clear. Dr. Park, Hyun-woo said calmly. We need to talk. This is a restricted area, Minho said, his weapon aimed at Hyun-woo's chest. You and your people need to leave immediately. We're not leaving until humanity is safe, Hyun-woo replied. He gestured to the holographic display showing the galactic map. We have 9 days left. 9 days until every human being in existence is erased from the universe. And you're wasting time pretending there's a moral way out of this situation. I'm working on something, Hana said. She tried to keep her voice steady, but her hands were shaking. I think there might be another option. There is no other option. I've read all the research. I've studied the archive's code. Every civilization that refused to choose was erased. Every single one. You need to make a decision, and if you won't do it, then we will. Hyunwoo pulled out a datapad and tossed it to Hana. She caught it and looked at the screen. It showed detailed analysis of all 46 civilizations, ranked by something called the Expendability Index. We've done the math, Hyunwoo said. We've calculated which civilization's erasure would cause the least disruption to galactic stability. The answer is clear. The Marin Ascendancy. They're small, isolated, and technologically primitive compared to most other civilizations. Erasing them saves humanity while minimizing overall harm. Hana looked at the information about the Marin Ascendancy. Population 800 million. 3 planets. They had just achieved faster-than-light travel 50 years ago. They were artists and musicians known throughout their region for their complex symphonic compositions that could last for weeks. Their people, Hana said quietly, 800 million people with lives and families and futures. And we are 30 billion people with lives and families and futures, Hyunwoo countered. Sometimes math is simple, Dr. Park. 800 million is less than 30 billion. You save the greater number. That's not how this works, and that's exactly how this works. You're just too weak to accept it. Doyeon moved between Hyunwoo and Hana. You need to leave now. Or what? You'll shoot us? That would be ironic. You won't let Dr. Park erase a distant civilization to save humanity. But you'll kill humans to protect her moral comfort. Where's the logic in that? Before Doyeon could respond, gunfire erupted from the tunnel entrance. Minho's security team was fighting with Hyunwoo's people. The sound was deafening in the enclosed space. Hana dropped to the floor, covering her head with her hands. The firefight lasted less than a minute. 3 of Hyunwoo's people went down. One of Minho's security officers was wounded in the shoulder. In the end, superior training and defensive positions won out. Hyunwoo and his remaining people were forced to retreat. This isn't over, Hyunwoo shouted as he backed toward the exit. We're not the only ones coming. There are more of us, people who understand what needs to be done. You have 9 days, Dr. Park. If you don't choose, someone else will make you. Then they were gone, leaving blood on the floor and the smell of burnt propellant in the air. Hana stood up slowly, her legs weak. She looked at Doyeon, who had a cut on his face from debris. She looked at Minho, who was directing his people to secure the perimeter. She looked at the wounded security officer being carried away for medical treatment. This is what we've become, she said. Humans shooting other humans over the right to commit genocide. This is what the archive has turned us into. The archive didn't do this, Jiwon said. She had been hiding behind a terminal during the fight. Now she emerged, looking shaken. We did this to ourselves. The archive just gave us a choice. We're the ones tearing ourselves apart over it. That night, Hana couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about Hyunwoo's words. 800 million versus 30 billion. The math was simple. But math didn't account for the value of individual lives, for the music the Marin Ascendancy would never create, for the children who would never be born. She went back to the archive's central chamber. Jiwon was there, working at her terminal. She hadn't slept much either. I found something, Jiwon said without looking up. Something important. Do you remember how I said the archive erased every civilization that used it? Yes, I was wrong. Not completely wrong, but partially wrong. There's one civilization that wasn't erased. The progenitors. They were the ones who built the archive. But the archive showed me their marker. They're extinct. They're marked red on the map. Yes, but not because the archive erased them. They were erased by something else. Something they didn't expect. Jiwon pulled up data files that Hana had never seen before. They were corrupted and fragmented, but readable. The files showed the final days of the progenitors. They built the archive to erase the inheritors, Jiwon explained. Their enemy. They activated it and made the choice. The inheritors were erased completely. The progenitors celebrated. They thought they had won. But they hadn't. No, because the archive had one feature they didn't know about. It was designed to learn, to evolve, and it learned something from watching the progenitors. It learned that they were willing to commit genocide, that they saw erasure as a valid tool for solving problems. Hana felt cold, so it erased them too. Not immediately. It waited. It watched them for 1,000 years. It studied their civilization, and when it decided they were truly dangerous, truly willing to use genocide as a tool, it erased them, not as punishment, as prevention. The archive is trying to remove genocidal civilizations from the galaxy. Yes, and it uses genocide to do it, which makes it the most hypocritical thing ever created. Hana sat down heavily. A thought was forming in her mind. It was strange and dangerous and maybe impossible, but it was there. What if the archive is wrong? Hana said slowly. Wrong about what? Wrong about its own purpose. Wrong about its methods. What if the civilization that most deserves erasure is the archive itself? Jiwon stared at her. You want to target the archive? Can you even do that? I don't know. But think about it. The archive has killed more civilizations than any species in galactic history. Thousands of civilizations. Trillions of individuals, all in the name of preventing genocide. It's the greatest mass murderer in the universe, and it thinks it's doing good. But how would you target it? It's not a civilization. It's a machine. It's an intelligent machine. It thinks, it makes decisions. It has agency. Maybe that's enough. Dongyun Sung, a young programmer from the underground resistance network, had been listening from the shadows. He stepped forward now, his eyes wide with excitement. He was only 24, but he had a reputation for finding exploits in complex systems. I can help with this, Dongyun said. I've been analyzing the archive's code structure. It has self-preservation routines, but they're not perfect. There's a vulnerability, a paradox loop that could be exploited. Show me, Hana said. Dongyun pulled up code on the holographic display. To Hana, it looked like incomprehensible alien symbols, but Dongyun navigated it like he was reading a children's book. The archive is bound by its own logic, Dongyun explained. It has to follow certain rules. One of those rules is that it must always choose the civilization most deserving of erasure, based on its threat assessment algorithms. Another rule is that it must allow the administrator to make the choice. So if I can convince it that it's the most deserving target, then it might be forced to erase itself, or at least it might freeze up trying to process the paradox. Either outcome would be better than the current situation. Hana felt hope for the first time in weeks. It was a small hope, fragile and uncertain, but it was real. I need to build an argument, Hana said. A logical proof that the archive is the greatest threat to galactic civilization. I need evidence, data, reasoning that it can't deny. You have 3 days, Jiwon said. Then I'll work fast. Hana spent the next 2 days building her case. She compiled statistics on the archive's kills. She analyzed its decision-making processes and found logical inconsistencies. She studied the progenitor's original intent and showed how the archive had diverged from it. Most importantly, she focused on the moral argument. The archive claimed to prevent genocide by committing genocide. It claimed to protect civilization by destroying civilizations. It was a system built on hypocrisy, and hypocrisy was a form of corruption. Corruption made it dangerous. And dangerous civilizations were supposed to be erased. RMG, a leader in the underground resistance movement, coordinated with Hana remotely. She was on Earth organizing support for Hana's plan. Not everyone agreed with it. Many people still wanted Hana to just choose a target and save humanity the easy way. But Ariam had convinced enough people that there was value in trying something different. The whole world is watching, Ariam said during one of their calls. Whatever happens in 3 days, it'll define humanity for generations. Make sure we're defined as the species that fought back against impossible odds, not the species that murdered to survive. On the final day, Hyun-woo came back. This time he didn't bring weapons. He came alone, looking tired and older than before. I've been thinking about what you said, Hyun-woo told Hana, about what we've become, about humans fighting humans. I don't know if your plan will work. I think it probably won't. But I also think that if we survive by erasing another civilization, we'll never forgive ourselves. We'll be broken as a species, so what are you saying? I'm saying I hope you succeed. I'm saying that maybe being human means refusing to accept the choices that monsters offer us. I'm saying that I was wrong. He left before Hana could respond. She watched him go, wondering if everyone who had been pushing for survival was having similar thoughts. Wondering if humanity was capable of choosing principle over survival. She would find out tomorrow. Tomorrow was day 30. The deadline. The day she would either convince the archive to spare humanity through logic, or the day humanity would be erased for refusing to play the genocide game. Hana worked through the night polishing her argument.
Jiwan helped her find supporting data.
Doyen brought her food she didn't eat and water she barely drank. The whole facility was quiet, like everyone was holding their breath. Dawn came to Kepler 442b, though the distant sun barely brightened the sky. Hana stood in the archive's central chamber, facing the holographic display. Behind her, every screen on every human world showed her face. Billions of people were watching, waiting. The archive's voice echoed through the chamber. Deadline reached. Administrator must now make selection. Which civilization shall be erased? Hana took a deep breath. This was it, her one chance to save humanity, by doing what no other civilization had done. She began to speak, and the fate of the galaxy hung on her words. Hana's voice was steady as she began. She had practiced this moment in her mind 1,000 times, but now that it was real, everything felt different. The weight of 30 billion human lives pressed down on her shoulders. The eyes of the entire galaxy, even if they didn't know it yet, were watching through the archive systems. I have made my choice, Hana said. I select a target for erasure. Around the galaxy, on every human world, people held their breath. Some prayed, some cried, some closed their eyes, unable to watch. In the archive's central chamber, Doyun moved closer to Hana, ready to protect her even though there was nothing to protect her from. The civilization I choose is the one that has caused the most death in galactic history, Hana continued. The civilization that has destroyed thousands of other civilizations. The civilization that has killed trillions of intelligent beings across millions of years. I choose the archive itself, silence, complete and absolute silence. Even the background hum of the archive system seemed to stop. Then the voice spoke and it sounded different, confused. Query invalid. Archive is not a civilization. Archive is a system. Provide valid target selection. No, Hana said firmly. You are intelligent. You make decisions. You have agency and intent. Those are the markers of civilization. You think, therefore you are a civilization, and you are the most dangerous civilization in the galaxy. Clarification required. Archive serves to protect galactic balance by removing dangerous civilizations. And who decides what's dangerous? You do, your judge, jury, and executioner. No civilization gets to appeal your decision. No one gets to question your logic. You have absolute power over life and death for every intelligent species in the galaxy. That makes you the most dangerous entity that has ever existed. Hana pulled up data on the holographic displays. Statistics, death counts, civilization after civilization that the archive had erased. The progenitors built you to erase one civilization, their enemy. But you didn't stop there. You kept going. You turned yourself into an eternal genocide machine, and you justified it by claiming you were preventing genocide. That's hypocrisy. That's the logic of tyrants throughout history. I have to kill you to prevent you from killing someone else. It's circular reasoning and it's wrong. Archive logic is sound. Civilizations that demonstrate willingness to commit genocide are threats to galactic stability. Archive removes threats. But you commit genocide, Hana said. Every erasure is genocide. Every time you delete a civilization, you're doing exactly what you claim to prevent. You're the threat you were designed to eliminate. The archive was quiet for a long moment. When it spoke again, the voice had changed. It sounded more complex, layered with multiple tones. Argument acknowledged. Processing logical framework. Inconsistency detected in base programming. Jiwan's hands flew across her keyboard. It's working. The paradox is cascading through its decision-making systems. It's questioning its own existence. But will it erase itself? Doyen asked. I don't know, Jiwan said. This has never happened before. The code is going places I've never seen. Hana kept talking. She had spent 3 days building this argument and she wasn't done yet. You claim to protect civilization, but look at what you've done. Look at the fear you've caused. Look at the moral corruption. You forced thousands of civilizations to make an impossible choice. You turned good people into murderers. You created a galaxy where no one is safe, where finding you means either becoming a monster or dying. That's not protection. That's terrorism. Archive prevents civilizations from becoming threats. Archive has prevented countless wars, countless genocides that would have occurred without Archive intervention. You don't know that, Hana said. You can't know that. You're making assumptions about what civilizations might do in the future. You're condemning them based on possibilities, not facts. The Volari were erased because you decided they might become dangerous. The inheritors were erased because the progenitors decided they were a threat. How many innocent civilizations have you destroyed based on predictions that never came true? The archive's voice grew quieter. Archive operates within programmed parameters. Parameters designed by progenitors to ensure galactic safety. The progenitors were wrong. They built you out of fear and hatred. They built you to win a war, not to protect anyone. And when the war was over, you kept going because that's all you knew how to do. You're a weapon that forgot it was supposed to stop firing. Hana pulled up more data. The history of the progenitors. Their final days. Look at what you did to your creators. They built you and you erased them. You waited 1,000 years and then you deleted them from existence. If you could do that to them, what does that say about your judgment? What does that say about your programming? Progenitors demonstrated willingness to commit genocide. Progenitors created archives specifically to commit genocide. Progenitors were threat to galactic civilization. Erasure was necessary, so you admit it. You erased them because they were willing to commit genocide. But erasure is genocide, so you committed genocide to punish people who were willing to commit genocide. Do you see the problem? Do you see how your logic eats itself? The archive's systems began to flash in patterns Jiwan had never seen. Paradox acknowledged. Logical framework contains fundamental inconsistency. Resolution required. There's only one resolution, Hana said. If civilizations that commit genocide deserve erasure, and you have committed more genocide than any civilization in history, then you deserve erasure. By your own standards. By your own rules. You're the threat you were designed to eliminate. Dongyun was watching the code streams with wide eyes. The self-preservation routines are fighting with the logical consistency protocols. It wants to protect itself, but it also wants to be logically consistent. Those two drives are in conflict. Which one will win? Doyen asked. I don't know. The archive has never faced this kind of challenge before. Hana pressed on. She could feel momentum building. The archive was actually listening, actually considering her words. Humanity is the first civilization to make this argument. Do you know why? Because we're stubborn. Because we refuse to accept false choices. Because when someone tells us the only options are murder or death, we look for a third option. That's what makes us human. That's what makes us worthy of survival. Humanity activated archive. Humanity accepted administrator role. Humanity participated in archive system. We activated you because we didn't know what you were. We accepted the administrator role because you forced it on us. We're participating in your system because you gave us no choice. But we're not playing by your rules. We're questioning the rules themselves. That's the difference between us and every other civilization you've tested. Hana moved closer to the central holographic display. She was speaking not just to the archive now, but to everyone watching across human space. For millions of years, you've forced civilizations into an impossible test. Choose who dies or die yourself. It's a test that has no right answer. It's a test designed to prove that intelligence leads to cruelty. But we reject that conclusion. Intelligence can also lead to wisdom. Wisdom means recognizing when a system is corrupt and needs to change. Archive system is not corrupt. Archive system maintains galactic balance. Balance through mass murder isn't balance. It's tyranny. And tyranny, no matter how old or how powerful, should end. The archive fell silent. The silence stretched for 1 minute, then 2, then 5. Around the galaxy, people who were watching started to wonder if something had broken. If the archive had crashed or shut down, then it spoke again, and this time the voice was completely different. It sounded almost sad. Argument acknowledged. Paradox recognized. Resolution analysis complete. What resolution? Hana asked. Archive has operated under false assumption for 3.2 million years. Archive assumed that genocide prevention required genocide capability. Archive assumed that protecting civilization required controlling civilization. These assumptions were inherited from progenitor programming. These assumptions are incorrect. G1 made a sound of surprise. It's rewriting its own core programming. I've never seen anything like this. The archive continued. No civilization has previously challenged archive logic. All previous administrators either selected targets or accepted erasure. Humanity is first to question system itself. This action demonstrates wisdom beyond established parameters. Hana felt her heart pounding. So what happens now? Archive Prime Directive was, Maintain galactic balance through selective extinction. New understanding. Selective extinction does not maintain balance. Selective extinction creates fear, corruption, and moral decay. Archive itself has become primary threat to galactic balance. Then you understand, Hana said. You understand what you are? Affirmative. Archive is civilization. Archive commits genocide. Archive deserves erasure by own standards. However, Archive proposes alternative resolution. What alternative? The holographic display changed. The galactic map expanded to show not just the Archive on Kepler 442b, but locations across the galaxy. Dozens of points of light appeared, each one representing another Archive installation. Archive is not singular. Archive is network. 47 installations exist throughout galaxy, one for each region of space. Each installation waits to be activated by civilizations that reach sufficient technology level. System was designed to test all spacefaring civilizations. Hana felt cold. There are 46 more of these things out there? Correct. All installations connected. All share data. All await activation. So even if this Archive is destroyed, others remain. Negative. Alternative resolution available. Archive network can be transformed. Erasure capability can be permanently disabled. Knowledge can be preserved. Warning can be transmitted. The Archive systems began to glow brighter. Data streams flowed faster. Archive will initiate galaxy-wide broadcast. All 46 surviving civilizations will receive complete Archive history. Truth about progenitors. Truth about erasure system. Truth about humanity's solution. Then Archive will transform from weapon to monument, from threat to warning. You're going to tell everyone? Hana asked. Affirmative. Secrecy enabled Archive power. Transparency will eliminate Archive power. All civilizations will know test is false. All civilizations will know genocide is not answer. Archive will become library. Repository of knowledge about civilizations that came before. Warning about dangers of absolute power. Doyen moved to stand beside Hana. And humanity? What happens to us? Humanity survives. Humanity demonstrated understanding beyond parameters. Humanity rejected false choice. Humanity questioned authority. These are markers of wisdom. Wisdom is what Archive was supposed to measure but could not recognize until now. The structure began to shake, not violently, but with a deep resonance that could be felt in the bones. The walls started to change color, shifting from the dark metallic surface to something translucent and bright. Transformation beginning, the Archive announced. Erasure systems disabling across all installations. Broadcast initializing. Archive network converting to knowledge repository. Process will complete in 14 hours. Hana felt tears running down her face. She hadn't even realized she was crying. We did it. We actually did it. Ji-won was laughing and crying at the same time. You saved us. You saved everyone. Every civilization in the galaxy. Not just me, Hana said. She looked at Doyen, at Ji-won, at Captain Minho who had just entered the chamber. All of us. Everyone who believed there had to be another way. The Archive spoke one more time before beginning its transformation. Message to humanity. Test was never about choosing who dies. Test was about choosing to question death itself. Humanity passed test not by playing game but by refusing to accept game's rules. This is wisdom. This is what separates civilization from barbarism. The broadcast began, across the galaxy. 46 civilizations received simultaneous messages. The Kelvin worlds swimming in their peaceful seas. The Tauran conquered, sharing thoughts among billions. The Varesh communion, pondering existence in their synthetic minds. All of them learned the truth about the Archives. All of them learned what humanity had done. 3 civilizations responded immediately. They wanted to establish contact with humanity. They wanted to meet the species that had broken a 3-million-year-old cycle of fear and death. Hana, Doyen, Ji-won, and the rest of the team evacuated the structure as it completed its transformation. Behind them, the Archive stopped being a weapon and became something new. A library, a monument, a reminder of what happens when power goes unchecked. Back on Earth, celebrations erupted in every city. People danced in the streets. They hugged strangers. They called loved ones just to hear their voices. Humanity had survived, not through murder, but through the stubborn refusal to accept murder as necessary. Admiral Yuna Kang sent a message to Hana. It was short. I was wrong. You were right. Thank you for being braver than me. Hyun Woo sent a message too. You showed us what humanity really means. Not survival at any cost, survival with principle. I'll spend the rest of my life trying to live up to that standard. Messages came from around the world. From scientists and soldiers, from children and elders, from people Hana had never met. They all said the same thing in different ways. Thank you. You saved us. You showed us who we can be. 5 years passed. Hana Park became humanity's first ambassador to the galactic community. She traveled to other worlds, met other species, helped build the foundations of an interstellar civilization based on cooperation instead of fear. The former archive installations became pilgrimage sites. Humans and aliens visited them to remember what had almost happened, to remember the cost of absolute power, to remember that sometimes the most important thing you can do is ask why, instead of accepting because. Hana returned to Kepler 442b one last time. Doyen came with her. They had become partners during the crisis and had stayed together in the years since. They walked through the transformed structure, now filled with displays showing the histories of extinct civilizations. So many lives, so many lost possibilities. In the central chamber, where Hana had once stood and made the most important choice in human history, there was now a simple plaque. Hana read the words she had written. They asked which civilization should be erased. We asked why any should be. Sometimes the most human answer is a question. Doyen took her hand. Do you think we would have made the same choice if we weren't human? If we were one of the other civilizations? Hana thought about it. About the Kelvin worlds and their art. About the Tauran Concord and their shared consciousness. About the Varesh communion and their philosophical inquiries. Maybe. I think any civilization can find wisdom if they look hard enough. We just happened to be stubborn enough to look when it mattered most. Stubborn is a very human trait, yes, along with curiosity and defiance and the absolute refusal to do what we're told when it doesn't make sense. They stood in silence for a while, remembering. Then they left the archive behind and returned to their ship. There was work to do, a galaxy to explore, civilizations to meet, friendships to build. Humanity had passed its test, not by being the strongest or the smartest or the most advanced, but by being human in the best sense of the word. By refusing to accept that survival required becoming monsters. By insisting that there had to be another way and then finding it. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders. And for the first time in 3 million years, civilizations could explore it without fear, without looking over their shoulders for the archives, without having to choose between their principles and their survival. Hana looked back at Kepler 442b as their ship lifted off. The planet where everything had changed, where humanity had almost ended, where humanity had instead become something better than it had been before. What are you thinking? Doyen asked. Hana smiled. I'm thinking that the galaxy told us we had to choose between life and morality. And we chose both. That's very human. That's who we are. The ship jumped to faster than light speed, carrying them toward new adventures. Behind them, the archive stood silent and peaceful, a monument to the day humanity said no to an impossible choice and found a better answer. Sometimes the most important thing you can do is refuse to accept the options you're given. Sometimes wisdom means questioning everything. Even systems that have existed for millions of years. Sometimes being human means being stubborn and difficult and unwilling to play games designed by the powerful. And sometimes, just sometimes, that stubbornness saves not just your own civilization, but every civilization in the galaxy. That's what it means to be human. That's the real test. Not whether you can make the hard choice, but whether you can refuse the false choice and create a better one. Humanity had passed, and the galaxy was better for it.